Okay, everybody, well, theory program. We're gonna start with the reading. So please, any questions or opinions, be free to make it. Okay, thank you, Liz.
Constructing basic beliefs following the is real map. Among many other meta-theoretical ways of looking at one's own thinking machine and its activities is one which considers the unknown origins of basic beliefs and finding those whose origins are unknown. The whole problem of origin and the whole problem of how one constructs basic beliefs is at stake here.
Buenos Aires. Yeah, you guys, the biggest problem that you're going to have here with this concept is beliefs that you think that you know. I doubt that you do. Most of the time, what we claim as a belief isn't really a belief at all. It's an opinion. Those are different things, okay? And so what happens for us is that we forget about the idea that what we believe about is real. If it's not real, we don't believe about it, because that's one of the things that Lily says in the first part of the class here, right? Whatever one believes to be true either is true or becomes true. So the only thing that you ever agree to are real things. You can't agree to anything else. Anything else is a fantasy, and you can't agree to that because you can't make it real. And so that's something you have to start with, is you have to start with the idea, with the very basic idea that what you believe is what you consider to be real. Those are things that you can identify and that you know is real. Okay, so you can say, I know where this comes from because I believe it to be real. The reason why that you can say that is because knowing anything requires three parts. Remember, and it requires the fountain or the source, the authoritative source, the experience itself, and a third-party substantiation. So any agreement that you have or any belief that you have where you're making something real is because other people say to you, yes, that's a real thing. That's how you know it. Okay. Now, there's nothing right or wrong about that. There's nothing. Nobody has to wear a funny hat or have a secret handshake, none of those kinds of things. It's just a fact. Okay, that's all. It's just a thing that's real. Okay, that's what we have to deal with. Okay, what's the next thing we got there, Kim?
Well, I just had a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
It's enormously frustrating for people when they're trying to make something real that can't be real. That's just a fantasy.
Oh, yeah. No, it drives people nuts. They bang into it all the time. Why can't I do this? Why is it's not working, et cetera? And you say, well, what are you making real? I don't know. I'm not doing it. It's just happening. What is it? It doesn't just happen to you. It's something that you do to yourselves. And we do it through what we believe is real. Okay. Remember in hermeneutics, what we talked about in hermeneutics is we say, okay, what one believes will result in an action. An action is a result of what one believes. That's a circle that happens all the time in any kind of belief structure. Okay, and so the thing that you want to look at here, the thing you want to try to consider here, is this idea that there are beliefs that begin in places in our lives, and we have to identify those first so that we can see what things we believe because they're handed down through generations. Speaking of being handed down through generations, if you guys will look at that picture at the beginning here, if you'll look at that, you'll see that the nerve endings are really in funny places when you stand up and look at people from standing up, where the nerves come out of the spinal column. But if you go down to that other picture where the guy's on all fours, you can actually see how we are a result of a reptilian idea. In other words, the basic structure of our nervous system, the very basis of our nerves, of our thought processes, are based in a reptilian type of thought process that happened way back in time. and we still do it. The same thing is true with the Olympic system. It still does the same thing. Same thing is true with the cortical system, but those are simply artificial division of thought. You get the same results by looking at it in terms of self-metaprogram, program, and logic. It breaks it up the same kind of way, but you have to think about how the nerves are in the body here, I think, because that tells you how far back our thoughts actually begin, our beliefs in real. If you look at that, you say, okay, what reptiles believe is real is what I start believing is real too. That's where I start in believing in real too. Because I treat those same things as real as the reptile does. So what's the next thing you got there, kid?
If one takes a naturally occurring thinking mind and obtains a sufficiently large sample of its thinking, one can have a meta-theoretical faith that one can then find the basic beliefs and their origins. I'm not too sure that such meta-theoretical faith in one's ability to adequately observe, adequately record, and adequately analyze mental events and construct them into logical explanations is warranted. With certain areas of thinking, one can do this. With certain kinds of minds, one can do this. But are not these the minds which have been organized along the known meta-theoretical pathways? Are not these the minds which believe implicitly in meta-theoretical terms in a basic set of beliefs and operate with them in an obvious, direct, logical fashion?
Obviously, that's true. Thank you, Mr. Lilly. That's actually a true statement. Okay. Here's his point that he's trying to make. Look, if you take anybody's thought processes and you can ask them enough questions about their thought process, about the events in their lives, generally speaking, you can find an event early in their life that has triggered a lot of beliefs. Those kind of beliefs are not fully formed. Okay, there's a problem with them. They're just you ask them where it comes from or why it's there, and people say, they start sounding like Charlie Brown's teacher. Wah, 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 wah. Who knows what they're talking about? Because the belief was made in a hurry, and didn't really address the problem adequately. That happens to a lot of us a lot of times. Now, the thing is that what Lily's saying is he's saying, look, you can do things for people, but you can't necessarily explain to them what it is that you're doing for them. And that's something you have to consider. Is that like in these classes, I can explain this stuff to you guys until the cows come home, but if you can't take it and use it, it's worthless to you. It's interesting and it's fun to listen to, and it makes you think, and it makes you get into your own self and consider stuff, and it gets in there and stays. All of that's true, but you have to apply it, or it isn't worth much. And so what Lily's saying here is he's saying, look, are not those people who can apply it already predisposed to understanding these kinds of things? The answer is probably yes. Although I've had experiences with people where people had eureka moments and they moved forward after they started off way behind the 8 ball, just buried. Okay, I still find that people can come out of that and begin to pay attention simply because they understand better how they're thinking. I can't tell them how they're thinking. Nobody can. I can show you the structures that we use in thought. That I can do, but how you think, nah, I can't do that, nor do I want to. I got enough trouble with my thinking. I don't need to worry with yours. Thank you very much, but you can do that yourself. I can show you the structure so you can figure it out. That I don't mind. But telling you how do you think, no, I can't do that. And so what Lily's talking about here is he's saying, look, these are people, the people that you're going to talk to really are the people who are already predisposed to hear you. Okay, that's a given. I'll be damned if I can figure out how it is that people end up here. I've never been able to figure that out. People come to my house and talk to me about stuff and they come out, maybe they crawl out of the woodwork or out of the walls or something. I don't know how they get here. Maybe they drop out of the sky, but they end up here and I end up talking to them because why they came. They want to know about the structure of their thinking. They always end up asking me to think for them, which I can't do, but they do ask me about the structure. So it's fine. I don't mind. Okay. What else we got here then?
May it not be better to conceive of minds and of criteria of excellence for general purpose minds, in which one plugs in, as it were, meta-theoretical positions which do not have only this area of applied formalism. In certain areas of thinking, of course, it is necessary to have a set of basic beliefs, including those of the rules of various kinds of games that one must play in the external physical reality and in the societal reality. One can play these at different levels of abstraction, which more or less excellence at playing, with or without dedication, etc. Interlock with external reality has its own requirements, not just those of the mind itself. In this paper, external reality is not the area of major emphasis, as can be seen in other portions of the paper. The interest of the author is more in the thinking machine itself, unencumbered. During those times when it is unencumbered by the necessities of interlock with other computers and or with an external reality, its non-interlock structure can be studied. A given mind seen in pure culture by itself in profound physical isolation and in solitude is the raw material for our investigation.
Well, that makes sense, doesn't it? In other words, what Lily's saying here is he's saying, look, it's not likely that we can really pay attention to some of the things that bother us. Okay, we really can't get into a place where we can say, I think this way, unless we can get into physical isolation and see how our thinking actually exists. Because in the external reality, we're always playing the games of the external reality. Always. Okay, we don't have any choice in that. If you go to the bank, do you yell and scream and carry out, or do you talk very softly? You talk very softly in the bank. And the reason why you do, because it's a holy place for money. And so we have our banking personality, right? We get in the car, we're driving, and say, hey, where the fuck are you going, dude? What the hell are you doing? Cut me off. That's the same person a minute ago was in the bank saying, oh, I'm sorry, could you help me, please? It's the same body, a different personality, right? Now, the thing is that we all have these games that we play, whether it's at work or with family or at school or with whomever. We have games that we play. Now, it's necessary to understand the rules of the games. And it's also necessary at times to play them. Not all the time, but at times it is. So you have to start with that. Do you know about this thing, or is it something that you simply learned how to do once upon a time? I don't know the difference. Okay, for me personally, I think it's something that you learn once upon a time. I don't think you decide about those kinds of behaviors. I think they're kind of built in by the family or by society or something of that nature. We don't really see it. It's kind of like little children who copy their fathers or their mothers when they stand or walk or what have you. They'll walk just like dad does, or they walk just like mom does, or they'll say things just like mom does or dad does, because that's how they're learning to interact in the world. Now that may go on for years and years, and they may modify it over the course of a few months. It's hard to say. However, what we're looking for is how to see the mind unencumbered. Think about this for a second. A not doing will result in the expression of the natural mind function. Okay, that we learned from functions class. So a not doing of the playing the games of the external reality game will result in you using your natural mind function as well. Being in the unknown of in any variety, in any type of unknown will give you that kind of feedback, any type at all. But you have to get into those places where you don't know the rules. So you can see how you behave, how you react, what you do, what you don't do, what you enjoy. You still think that you're in Kansas there, Toto or Dorothy? If you're not in Kansas anymore, then what are you doing? Why are you acting that way still? For instance, Pammy, one of the things that you never saw because it's part of who and what you are is your rules about food. You just never saw that, but it's there just the same. Whether you ever think about it, whether you ever talk about it, whether you ever see it ever not, those rules exist, and they kick your butt all the time. Now, that doesn't mean that you're a bad girl, or doesn't mean that this can't be modified. It means that if you see it, then you can do something else about it. That's the idea. But you have to be able to see it. You have to not do it. Okay, you have to actually stop that behavior and do something else. Okay, what else we got here? Yeah.
Thus, our major interests are in those metatheoretical positions which remain as open as possible to reasonable explanation and reasonable models of the thinking processes of the origins of belief, of the origins of self, the organization of self with respect to the rest of the mind, and the kinds of permissible transformations of self, which are reversible, flexible, and introduce new and more effective ways of thinking.
Yeah. The other day I was talking to a client, and she was telling me about how it was that she had problems with her mom because her mom did a nasty thing once upon a time. And so she can't forgive her. She can't worry about her. How can she trust her? What if she did? And in reality, all that she's talking about is some kind of a moral judgment. That's all. Okay. What we're trying to get her to see is that if she loosens up that morality a little bit, just a little bit, what'll happen is that she'll be able to see herself better. Because she sees herself as being angry with her mother. I don't see that quite. I see her saying that she's angry with her mother, but I see her being embarrassed that her mother is a drunk, let's say. She's embarrassed about that, so she's angry with mom because she can't tell mom to do something differently. Well, is that a permissible transformation for mom or for the girl? A permissible transformation. Think about this. In terms of the games that we have to play, okay? I want you to stop and think. I can say over and over and over and over to all of you, and I have already. I have this on speed typing on my computer, but it's like self-meta programs work directly only on meta programs, and meta programs work directly only on programs. Period. Now the thing is that you can't hear that. The majority of you simply cannot hear that, and the reason why you can't hear it because it's not permissible in your rules. You have meta programs that are so constricted in each cell that they have limiting parameters in each cell. It's like the cells on your spreadsheet. They have limits as to what they can do. Once upon a time, that you could put in those cells were numbers and letters. That was it. Now you can put graphics there. Now you can do all kinds of things in there. Well, that's because the limiting parameters of those cells were expanded. Once upon a time, word processing came out in Apple type. Now you can get all kinds of things from dingbats to handwriting to all, just you name it. You've got you got 100,000 fonts that you can pull from. That couldn't be done in old style word processing, because the older style word processing had limiting parameters. And so your morality is a limiting parameter. I shall not do this thing. I am known for not doing that thing. I'm known for doing this thing. This is who I am. That's all bullshit, boys and girls. Sorry, but it is. You're not any of that stuff. I don't give a damn what you tell me. That's all stuff that you're making up. What you really are is for instance, this little girl that's saying that she's mad at mommy. She's an arrogant little bitch that's trying to tell her mommy how to live her life instead of appreciating what her mommy has done for her. Wow. Mommy got her to a place that she's 26 years old and has a job and doing what she wants. What a terrible person mommy is, right? Oh, maybe not, huh? In other words, that's what she believes is real, because that's how she behaves. Belief, action. That's a hermeneutic circle. Do you have those? Do you have arguments with your family that are not resolved? Why? Why would you do that? Who are you trying to prove this thing to them or to you? Have you ever thought about why you're angry? Do you know why you get angry? Do you know what angry means for you? Do you know what frustration is and what anger is? Do you know the difference between the two? Really? Do you know that an anger has to include a threat? And so if you tell me you're angry at mommy, how's mommy threatening you? Does mom threaten you? How is that? Is she gonna take your birthday away? Is she gonna poison you? Is she gonna beat your ass? What? I mean, I don't care what the threat is. I mean, it doesn't make any difference to me, but you know, every now and then you got to stop and say, you know, look at what it is you're really trying to tell yourself, right? Because if you don't, then what happens is that you're living in a fantasy. That doesn't make good sense. We have to deal with reality, not with fantasy. We don't know the difference, because we don't believe that what we believe is real. We believe that we believe in Jesus, and we believe in the Holy Ghost, and we believe in the church, and we believe in the Mother Mary, and we believe we believe we're going to have another beer. Those are things that we say that we believe, but they're not real things, not to us. We just say that. For instance, how many of you would say, good Catholic people now, how many of you say that the sanctity of marriage is the sacrament of marriage is an important thing? How many of you would say that? Mm-hmm. Are you aware that it wasn't even a thing until about 1500? Antes de este, la iglesia dijo, I mean, before that took place, the church actually said that marriage was a terrible thing. It was awful. Couldn't do it. No, they did. 1500 years they said that. Yep. Amazing, huh? Because it was an economic reason, actually. Is that people, it was against the law for people even to masturbate. Okay, if they masturbated, they were going to hell. So guys got castrated, and women took out their ovaries. They cut off their clitoris, etc. There's weird shit, weird stuff. But people did that,
And the reason why they did it is so that they could go to heaven, because, sex was so bad, I mean, the very idea. Well, it isn't bad. It's a natural thing that we all do. I mean, ask Pitbull. Everybody fucks, he says. He's right. Everybody does. And we all deny it. We all say, oh, no, that wasn't me. That's horseshit, boys and girls. That's absolute horseshit. You do those things. And that's something that you think is real. You don't believe it's real that you shouldn't do it. How do I know? Because all of you are doing this thing here all the time. That's how come, because it's a real thing. That's the real thing that you do, not the, oh no, I can't. I'm too holy and sanctimonious. That's not true. The reality is, what's actually real is that you can't wait to get naked and have sex. That's a real thing amongst people. So what? Rather than getting all uptight about it and saying it's a terrible thing, why not understand the origin of belief? That's one that you don't know the origin of. It ain't even yours. It wasn't even your mommy's. Hell, it wasn't even your grandma's. It wasn't the priest. It wasn't the sisters at the parochial school. It wasn't any of that stuff. Sex was determined to be wrong and bad, so that the men of the church could control women. Really? Look it up. I'll send you links if you want, so you can figure it out. So what we're looking at here is we're looking at things that we can figure out. Okay. So for instance, when we talk about a goals means program, that's something that we can actually relate to, because all of us do a goals means program every time we eat. I mean, think about that. What do you have in your hand? You have a fork or a spoon, right? And what are you going to do with that? You're going to put it in, and you're going to make it go over here and go in your mouth, right? So you're going from you're going to the needs, etc. These are all important things that we don't see coming. We just don't see it. We just don't, because we think that we are deciding what we believe. No, you're not. I don't give a damn what you tell me about sex. I will guarantee you that whatever you tell me about whatever your opinion is about sex, it is tainted with ideas from a church or from a Judeo-Christian bias that tells you that sex itself is wrong. Now, I don't mind that somebody thinks that. It's okay with me. You can do that. You can suffer if you want to. I don't mind. But it's not necessary. It's not true. But I'm not trying to convince you that it's not true. I'm just trying to tell you. I'm trying to tell you about a historical fact. Deal with it or not deal with it. It's the same to me. I don't give a shit. You want to deal with it? Great. You don't want to deal with it? Who cares? It's like, this is one of those things. You can't accept that. Some of you just may not accept that thought. It's too chaotic. It's something that you cannot see. You can't look at it. Doesn't mean you're bad, folks. Doesn't mean that you're ignorant. Doesn't mean any of those things. It just means that you can't see it. You can't allow yourself to go there. Doesn't make any difference why. However, the history says that marriage itself even wasn't even a thing until the 15th century, the 1500s. Really, it wasn't a thing until then. What do you do? See, that's a really that we can't accept things like that. So we have to say, oh no, my mommy told me I had to be, I'm a good boy. I'm a good girl. Okay, I'm glad. That's great. I don't mind. You can suffer with that if you want to. It's fine with me. Really and truly, I'm not gonna put you down for it. Nothing else. If that's how you have to live life, that's how you have to live life. That's perfectly fine. My job is not to tell you whether you're right or wrong. My job is just to say, look, this is historical fact here. Here's a real thing that you say you don't believe in, but it's real, and so you have to believe in it because it's a real thing. It's a historical fact. ¿Cómo? Huh? Yeah, we all do. I mean, when Russell comes, you maintain your virginity, right? Oh, see what I mean? Not so much, right? Okay, I don't mind. That's between you and Russell, and it's just perfectly fine. But to say that you're a good girl and you don't do those things, or that you're guilty and you need to go confess to the priest or something because you did those things, is pretty much goofy because that's what you believe is real. I'm not telling you that's what you do. I'm just pointing out that people do these things. Okay, they're not bad people. They're not doing anything wrong or anything. They don't know any different. That's it. We're like little kids. We just don't know any better. Those ideas were formed in haste, and they're not very well formed because we don't think about them carefully. Okay, what else we got there, Elise?
Is one of the sum and substance of one's experience, of one's genetics, genic inheritance, of one's modeling of other humans and of other animals and of plants, or is one something in addition to this? As we chip away at this major question of existence of self, as men have chipped away at this question over the millennia, we find this kind of question and the attempt to answer it have led to new understandings, new mathematics, new sciences, new points of view, and new human activities. If one attempts to conceive of oneself as having gone through another kind of evolution other than that of the human, if one attempts to conceive of himself as having lived in an environment different from the social one that we have been exposed to, or if one attempts to imagine having evolved as an organism with the same or greater degree of intelligence in the sea, or on a planet nearer the sun, or further from the sun, one realizes the essentially prejudiced nature of one's self. Let one carefully consider, for example, the genic mutations led to two different human form structures, functions, and mental sets. One meta-theoretical position is that all such mutations in their proper combinations exposed to the proper environment of which there must be millions of possibilities, one can survive and progress. In other words, even those mutations which are lethal now may have survival value under special new and different conditions.
Okay, Lily's talking about something here, and he's talking about it in terms of genetics, although it doesn't really apply to genetics nearly as much as it applies to our thoughts. It does apply to genetics, but not as much. I mentioned to you guys every now and then about the third generation of living, after 3 generations of living in the Andes, above 12,000 feet, your great-grandchildren will have more veins in their feet than you do. Okay, but it takes 3 generations to get there, okay? If you or I try, or when you and I try to live there, we've got to struggle with it, okay? Because the air's thinner, it's cold as hell, our feet are frozen, our fingers are frozen, our ears are frozen, our noses are frozen, and we don't like it much. It's hard to boil water. I mean, there's all kinds of screwy things that you want at 12,000 feet. Baking a cake, yeah, yeah, right. Okay, it happens, okay, but not easily. Okay, so here's the thing. What he's actually saying is he's saying, look, we want you guys to understand that there's this place here where things that you think are essentially dangerous aren't. That maybe if you were to change your circumstances, or maybe if you were to think about things from a different perspective, that what would happen is that you would see yourself, or you would see what's going on for yourself in a much less threatening state. Let's go back to mommy for a moment, okay? Remember my client that's saying that mommy's a drunk, she can't trust mommy because mommy. Okay, she was 8, she decided that, maybe earlier. I think it was earlier, but we'll see. But she remembers at least at 8 having decided that mommy's a bad person. Now, here's the thing. Why is she holding on to that? It's not a trick question, really. It is, but it isn't. Why is she holding on to that? Because she's decided that she believes something that isn't even real. She has some reality in it, but not the whole thing. She's got the idea that mommy drinks, but she doesn't have the idea that mommy drinks to get away from or to escape from something, but she does that so that she can express something that otherwise is going to explode out of her. The daughter can't accept that. Why not? Because the daughter cannot accept something that she cannot see as real. And to the daughter, that fantasy is real because she says she believes it's real. And so therefore it becomes real. It either is real or it becomes real. And in this case, she's insisting that it's going to become real. It never will, but she's making it that. And so between the girl and her mom, there's a constant battle over absolutely nothing, over a non-existent threat. It's not even a point of view. It's just ignorance. It's just, oh, I've decided. Right. I took this thing out and that proves that I'm right. We don't ever do that. You've never done that, right? No, of course not. Vincent, you've never done that, right? You have? Vince, really? You've done that? You're kidding me. Oh my Lord, you've actually done that. You rotten child, you. What shall we, I think we should take you call your moms back over here. We gotta take your birthday away. That's all there is to it. Yeah, you can't have a birthday like that, dude. You just can't have that. Okay, yes, we all do that shit, right? We all decide stuff without knowing, right? We just decide that we're right. Ta-da. Huh?
Based on nothing.
Based. Well, I feel like I'm right. Right? And that the justification. I feel as though I'm right. I can't ignore my feelings. Well, why can't you? Because that's who I am. Really? That's all you are is your feelings? Oh, that's sweet. How wonderful. That's a clever thought right there, don't you think? Look, everybody does this stuff, guys. All of us, we all do it, right? We all decide stuff like that, and we shouldn't. Okay, I'll point it out. I'll tell you that it happens. I'll tell you that you're guilty of it, and I'll also tell you that you can't do a damn thing about it until the good Lord's willing and the creeks don't rise anymore. If both those things are true, then you can change it. But until you can see it for what it is, you can't do anything about it except suffer with it. I'm not telling you you're a bad person because of that. I'm not telling you that God's out to get you. Nothing. I'm just saying that's just the nature of the beast. If you can look at it and you can gin up the courage to look at those things that you're arguing with yourself about, then you can do something else. If you can't, no, you're fucked, so to speak. Okay. What else you got there, Lisa?
If there is any truth in this statement, then we should be doing a whole set of experiments on the adaptability and the seeking of the proper environment, proper peculiar diets, proper relations of sleep and wakefulness, light to dark, amount of various kinds of radiation, amount of noise, amount of motion, and so forth, for mutants at each stage in their life cycle. In other words, we should experiment with all of the vast parameters in which we have evolved and their variations in order to seek optimal survival values for the embryo, fetuses, and children who do not survive under our particularly narrow range of values of these parameters. To change lethals to optimal seems possible and even probable with imaginative and thorough research.
Again, Lily's talking about genetics here, but I'm not sure that's what he's actually talking about. Genetics. Okay. I'm just not sure that's really what he's talking about at all. It may very well be that what he's talking about is that he's saying, all right, look, what you've got going on here is you've got these rules in your life that you can overcome. You're not going to die. Why in the name of God are you dumping these rules on your kids? Why are you starting at embryo stage to tell the kid how he has to live life? What for? Why not let the kid express who the kid is? Is that going to embarrass you? Is that a threat to you somehow? I don't think so, but maybe it is. But if it is, well, explain me to it. Your kid named Damien? It's an old movie, so maybe. Damien was a bad boy. Bad. I mean, he was a bad, stop the world kind of bad boy. Umbrella Academy bad. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Can be what, like a belief that I have to educate how I want the kid?
No, you're going to. You're going to do that whether you want to or not. The kid's going to pick up exactly what it is that he's going to see through you. And you're going to do dumb things and smart things and awful things and wonderful things. And the kid's going to take them all and go, yep, that's mom.
What's the difference between let him express himself and educate?
Well, let's look at a couple of these that are really simple. If you go down to Mega or to Soriana, I guess now, right? And you walk into Soriana, and there's a kid in the middle of the cereal aisle, kicking his feet and saying, "I want Captain Crunch," and he's screaming at the top of his lungs. I'm all for letting that kid figure that out, but by himself. If you want to, then buy you some Captain Crunch, bud. It's okay. I don't mind. Buy it. You won't buy it for me. I know. I told you I wasn't going to buy it for you. I'm not going to buy it for you. I'm done. This conversation's over. But you can sit there and scream and kick your feet if you want to. I don't mind. Kick away. Is that getting it done? You getting the Captain Crunch like that? No? Well, maybe you ought to try another tactic. That's actually talking to the kid about real things. Giving the kid the Captain Crunch is probably the worst thing you could possibly do to the kid. Because you're rewarding the kid for doing a stupid damn thing. That doesn't make good sense. Maybe, but not in any world I know about. But it's okay. I mean, I don't mind. Everybody has the right to raise their kids the way they see. Hey, out. I don't want to talk to you about this tonight. So that just happens, folks. Okay, it's not a good thing or a bad thing. It just happens. The kid's going to do what we show him or her. Do we show the kid that he has to solve his problem in a social situation? Great, the kid will learn. If we say, "Oh, you don't have to solve it, I'll solve it for you," we just fuck the kid. Wow, huh? But I'm being nice to my child. No, you're not. No, you're not being nice to anybody. Not to you, not to the people in the store, no one. You're being a shithead. Because the kid needs to know this, that he can't do that every time he comes to the store. He needs to know that he can't do that just because he wants to. And if you can't show that to the kid, not tell the kid, not tell him he's a good kid or a bad kid, just say, well, you have to decide without you getting involved with it or being threatened by whatever the kid's doing. Then I think you're doing about the best that you can do. If you're going to tell the kid what to do, man, that's going to fuck with the kid. Why would you want to do that? Why would you want to say you have to think this way? Doesn't make good sense to me. That's right, because everybody has to express what they think, how they think about it. Not anybody, not anything else. How you think about it, right? I don't care that you fuck it up. I care about that you get done with that thing so you know where you are really. Right. If you fuck it up, then you say, oh, okay, that was a fuck up. Great. We'll go back and fix it now. Okay, I fixed it. Okay, now rather than going through the fuck up, why don't you just fix it to begin with? Yeah, huh. Okay, that makes sense, right? Okay, no reason to be mad at you about that. You made a mistake, and now you're going back to figure out how to solve the mistake. If we all can be cool with that, we do much better. Okay, when we get all dramatic because, oh, you said this terrible thing about moi. Oh, for the love of Christ, would you just shut the fuck up and leave me alone? No, I didn't say that about you. I made an observation that you're shooting yourself in the foot. Look at your foot; it's bloody. You got holes in it. Quit shooting yourself there. Oh, you're telling me I shoot myself in the foot? Yes, I am. Why are you telling me that? I'm not. I'm just pointing out that you got holes in your foot. Is it hard to walk? That may have something to do with it. I'm not telling you right or wrong. Just check it out. How hard could that be? Silly, right? Try doing it.
Our genetic code with all its possible variations is a general purpose construction kit for a vast set of organisms, only a few examples of which we see in the adult human population in all the races around the world. This molecular construction kit for organisms through the exgenses of the world, through the exgeneses of matings, of early embryonic development and growth, of the conditions imposed by mother, her diet, and physical and social surroundings, gives rise to organisms which test experimentally the conditions imposed upon them and test how well the particular combination and the particular values in their genetic code are combined to form an integral, complete organism for coping with that particular environment and those particular organisms found in that environment, including bacteria and viruses.
Again, Lily's talking about bacteria and viruses instead of human beings, but the same rules apply because he's saying it's the same genetic code, and that's true. In other words, the things that made a reptile are the basis that made us. The things that made mammals are the things that made us. The things that made the monkeys and Neanderthals are the things that made us. We took that and increased it or improved upon it somehow. Okay, this is an important thing to consider. We learn how to learn. Okay, we can write up meta programs. We can expand the parameters of a meta program, the cells of the program, so that we can accept new data, so that we can process larger data sets and so all kinds of things of that nature. But the thing we have to consider here is that the reason why we can is because we're mutating our thought processes. They're mutating because we're learning about them. Okay. Think about this. Over the last 100 years, there has been an explosion of technological advancement. I mean, just enormous strides in that and advancing technology. We haven't made the same kinds of strides or advances in terms of understanding our own thought. We just haven't. We're still holding on to ideas that were popular in the Middle Ages. We're still using language that came from the Romans. We are. We're dealing with dichotomies that came from Greek and Persia. Well, that's true. That's what we're doing. We're still dealing rights and wrongs, ups and downs, goods and bads. And why? Because we're afraid we're going to go to hell? You mean you're not there already? I mean, really? I mean, How can that be fun? That can't be a celestial experience, I guess, when you can't be who you are, when you're guilty for being what you are, for following your biology, or for acknowledging the general purpose construction kit that is your brain. Now, would you think about that thought for a second? A general purpose construction kit. You got all of the goodies there. You got all the Lego parts. You got all the Erector set parts. You got all the Lincoln logs. You got all the wheels and the motors and the helicopter blades and everything else that you need to make this Lego thing work forever. And what do? You hold on to ideas from the 15th century. And the reason why you did that is because mommy told you to, really. Because mommy held on to it, and Grammy held on to it, and great Grammy held on to it. Really? You don't have to stop and say, how come, guys? You don't have to do that? Okay, it's fine, don't do it. I'm not trying to convince you to. For me personally, I have to do that. I don't care whether you have to do it or not. I have to. I have to say, okay, why on earth did great Grammy and mommy and Aunt Matilda and all that, what in the name of God were they thinking about? And why were they thinking that way? And when I come to find out that the thing that they were thinking about and the reason they were behaving that way is because of rules that were set down in about the 2nd century. Well, it wasn't even the 2nd century, still in the 1st century after Christ. Those rules were set down by the Apostle Paul in his letter to the Corinthians. That's when the rules were set down. And so you're still following the rules from the Apostle Paul. So aren't you a sainted person? You certainly are. You and Paul are just like that, right? And he had such a great education because he was a Jew that converted to Christianity and saw visions. I don't know what he was taking on the road to Damascus, but I wish he'd have hadn't bogarted it because it looked like a pretty good thing to me. You know, he was pretty high apparently because he was seeing stuff that I never seen, even with all the crap I've taken. I never saw that. It's just I have no idea what he was taking. Must have been something in the air. Maybe it's water and a lot more. Who knows? But you're following the rules set down by the Apostle Paul, like in 100 BC or AD. Really? I don't mind. Do you? It doesn't make any difference, you see. It's just a matter of how do you deal with it. That's it. Okay? All right, let's see. There's something else here I wanted to talk about. Well, this construction kit for a general purpose computer is just way underused, and we can. I think we could probably get an update here. You know, download an update and kind of do this a little better. You know, update so that we can think about it better. You know, have a less restricted set of parameters, perhaps. It could happen. Okay, what else we got?
One can conceive of an infinity of other environments populated with other viruses, bacteria, and complex organisms in which man, as such, could not survive in his present form. One can also conceive of our genetic code as given, generating organisms who could and would survive and progress under those new conditions.
Yeah, we could teach our kids a little bit better, so they could be more general purpose. We could do that. We can help each other be more general purpose if we wanted. We can. Doesn't hurt anything at all. I don't care how mad people get because you tell them that they're general purpose. They have to deal with it because it's a real thing. I mean, think about it. When Columbus showed up over here in Cuba, or wherever in Santo Domingo, wherever he showed up, he said, you know, there's a whole world over there. He went back to Spain, I'm sure, or to Italy, wherever he went back to. I'm sure there were people who said, "Está loco." It's without a doubt, they just said, you know, you're a crazy motherfucker. You know, just sit your butt down and shut the fuck up. I don't care whether Isabella gave you the money or not. You know, you're crazy. You know, if you go out there that far, you're gonna fall off the edge of the world. What a crazy motherfucker you are. I'm sure there were people who said that, and they would have had reason, right? Because that was the accepted set of beliefs. That was what was thought of as real at that time. I mean, with Galileo said, you know, the sun's not the center of the universe. We're just a star, we're kind of running around one piece of the universe. They put him under house arrest for the next, what was it, 20 years or so? He said, no, you can't say things like that. You just can't. Because that was a reality that he was talking about, and the church knew it was a reality. The church had done the research too. They knew it was a reality, but they couldn't let him talk about it. Because if people get all pissed off and say, well, what do you mean we're not the center of the universe? You said that we were. We still have people today who are saying we have flat earth. It's a flat earth. Why can't I see China? I can't see China. When the sun goes down, I see the sun reflected off the sky up, the clouds up way high. The further down it goes, the higher up there it's reflected. That sounds like it's round. Nope, it's flat. Okay. If a round Earth is too chaotic for you, it's good with me. Why would I want to argue with somebody who thinks that the world is flat? What for? They should get on their donkey and go down to the saloon and have a beer or a whiskey or whatever they have at the saloon off the donkey. I mean, it really is. This is crazy stuff here that people do, right? But it's all because of this thing here. We don't build a general purpose. We don't use a kit. We don't build a general purpose computer. We just don't do it. We settle for stupidity or mediocrity or ignorance, maybe. Take your pick. Maybe any of the above or all the above, or maybe more, maybe other things completely. It doesn't make any difference. The fact of the matter is that we don't do it. And we should. We could, we just don't. That's it. What else we got here until we have thoroughly explored? No, go keep going.
Can I add something there?
I don't know. You're awfully smart.
Maybe. Well, this is kind of stuff that we are dealing right now with my husband, because the baby, he's 8 months old, but when he dresses him up, the baby cries so hard. And when I dress him up, he doesn't that much. Well, he doesn't. And my husband is like, well, when he's dressing the baby, this is good, don't gonna like you, but you have to do that. And I said, why don't you make it fun to him? This is something that he is gonna do every day for the rest of his life. It's not like he doesn't, I don't know. It's, you have to teach him that do it like a normal thing. See?
Just chill. Yeah, just chill here, kid. Okay.
Yeah. No, the thing is, like, we teach the kids to react to.
Listen, Mike's father was the same as Mike.
Got it.
So you have to, so that's where that's undone, is he has to go back and think about how his dad did it and what he wants to do differently. Because he learned that as an emotional set, as a metaprogrammatic set. You follow what I'm saying? And in that programmatic set, he has limiting parameters about how he can deal with the kid.
Yeah,
Okay?
that's right.
Okay.
So I wanted, to add it. I think it's a good example about how we teach kids how to deal with things, and
Right.
we limit. Mhm.
But the thing is that we teach them the way that we were taught. You're
Okay.
teaching you the way that you were taught. Mike's teaching to you the way he was taught. So,
Yeah, the thing is, like, now with all these classes, I try to do a different stuff.
okay, there's nothing wrong with that. And if you keep talking to Mike, he'll figure it out too, okay? He's not stupid.
Okay. No, 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 claro que no.
Okay, well, he'll figure it out. Just keep, have faith in him and keep talking to
Be
him, okay?
patient. All right.
Okay.
Until we have thoroughly explored this genetic code, until we can specify the organism and the conditions under which it can reach maturity and become an integral individual, we'll not have the data necessary for specifying all of the characteristics of the human computer, which are brought to the adult from the sperm-egg combination.
You see, here's the thing. We all say things like, well, I'm not as bright as my brother, or my sister's the smart one in the family, or my cousin Harvey is smarter than everybody else, or my cousin Earl is the stupidest kid you've ever met. Okay, we all say things like that, right? You understand what we're doing there? What we're doing is that we're saying that we understand the limits of the genetic code. We don't. We don't at all. If we can say that we're dumb, or somebody else is dumb, or somebody's just this thing or just that thing, we're not thinking about their programming. We're thinking about our preconceived limits on the genetic code. This is all that person can be. Dumb. Well, that's dumb. Not anybody here is dumb, but that's a dumb thing. It doesn't make any sense, is the reason why it's dumb, okay? Because the genetic code doesn't say that, it's not a measurement of intelligence. How do you deal with problems? How are you taught to address problems? Were you taught that anything you did was fine? Were you taught that you could do anything you wanted? Were you taught that you had to follow the rules? There's lots of different ways, right? What's the good? What's good for you? What's good for your kids? What's good for your life? Adjust it there, not from, oh, I'm genetically challenged. Okay, I'm glad to hear that you're genetically challenged. And in what way? You have 7 fingers and 3 toes? What is this? Okay, is that how you genetically? I've got one eye that's green and one eye that's orange. And no, that's I don't care. What colors do you see? Oh, I see all the same colors. Cool. It's a construction kit for a general purpose computer. That's what you got. If you don't construct it, shame on you. It's not a matter that it's not available. You can if you want to. Everybody with? Okay. What else we got here?
We have not tested our own range of adaptability as integral adults to all possible environments. Scientifically, we have little experience with the extreme. We know something of the extremes of temperature, of air, and of water in which we can survive. We know something of the radiation limits within which we can survive. We know something of the oxygen concentrations in the air that we breathe. We know something of the light levels within which we can function. We know a little of the sound levels in which we can function, and so forth. We are beginning to see how the environment interlocks with our computer and changes its functioning. We are beginning to see how certain kinds of experiences with these conditions set up rules, which we call physical science, within our own minds. We are beginning to see how, if we change the external conditions in a limited way within a limited piece of apparatus, that these rules must be changed in order to understand how we can model these changed conditions and the way that atoms, molecules, radiation, and space behave in our own minds. This century has seen vast advances in our modeling of radiation, material particles of matter, space, stars, galaxies, solid materials, liquids, and our small modifications of all of these. This century, however, has not seen a similar gain in our understanding of the operations of our own minds, of the essential origins of thinking, and of those conditions under which we can elect to create a new thinking machines within our minds.
Yeah. We're all of us do this thing, right? We all say, oh, I know about this. These are the limits of radiation. I know about that. This is the limit of time that you can go without your heart beating. I know about that. This is the length of time you can go underwater. I know about, and we say we have all this list of things that we know about, right? Are they actually, do we actually know about them? Nah, not really. We know, what we know is that we've been told those things. Okay. That's not, it's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just we've been told those things. That's it. That's all. We rarely have that experience, right? I mean, have you ever spent 10 minutes underwater and then come back and be revived? Well, probably not. And so you don't know about that limit. You can certainly appreciate it, but you don't know firsthand about it, okay? However, do you know about changing your behavior? Can you actually change your behavior, or are you still arguing with mom and dad that you don't have to? Well, let's stop for the reason first, okay? How many of you think that you actually do things because you're reacting to mommy or daddy? Yeah, we all do that. And the thing is that as long as we're reacting, it's an impulsive reaction. You can't even get to what you actually need from there. You just can't. Okay? Goals, means, charisma, orientation, elimination, simulation, impulses. Nope. Impulses, reactionary impulse. That's it.
Why are you doing this? Because we come from here, so we're supposed to, ¿a qué estoy reaccionando?
Oh, and guess what? You're gonna be doing that for years. Isn't that fun? Really, it is. I mean, because you don't need to get lost in doing these things, right? But you're going to go back and say, okay, well, why in the name of God did I do this stupid ass thing? You know, and you go back and we ask ourselves and ask ourselves and ask ourselves. Well, generally speaking, it's because we made a mistake when we were a kid. Okay, we thought something was real that probably wasn't actually real, but that doesn't mean we didn't think that. We did think that. We thought it was a real thing. Okay. Neither here nor there. We just think it's a real thing. That's all. Doesn't mean we have to live there, though. It doesn't mean we can't stop and say, okay, well, that's not a real thing, or that is a real thing. Or that's a quasi-real thing. Some parts of it is real, other parts of it is just not. All those things are possibilities. Right? All those considerations are possibilities. We can modify those thoughts if we want to. Okay? It's important that we do that. Okay. So the thing is that what we'd like to be able to do is we'd like to see those same kinds of gains in our understanding of thinking that we've had in understanding of molecules and quarks and all those other wonderful things that we keep finding in the super collider, right? We want to find out, we need to understand what those are, certainly, but can we do the same thing in our own minds? Can we figure out down to those levels why we do what we do? I mean, some of the things we can, some of the things belong to other generations. They belong to history. They're so far back. We can't even find where it began. Some things we can because it's written down historically. Okay, what else we got there?
In this century, we have begun to appreciate some of the powerful and special organizations of matter, which are our essential organisms. The advances in the last 50 years of biochemistry,
Alma.
genetics, biophysics, and other molecular biology are the beginnings of the new control of these distributions of matter within ourselves.
Yeah. I think I've mentioned this a number of times, but last summer there was a study where they used algebraic geometry to discover that the brain occasionally arranges itself in 11 and 13 dimensions in order to do certain operations. It actually arranges the neurons arrange themselves in 11 to 13 dimensions. I have no idea what that means. I can't imagine more than 3 dimensions. I'm having trouble with 4 because even with time is what I think I know about it. The more I try to understand time, the less I know about it really. But the reality is that 11 or 13 dimensions is beyond my ability to compute. But my brain computes at that level. So does yours. And so you're going to tell me that you're just conscious, are you? That your thoughts are only conscious? Isn't that cute? How ignorant can you fucking be? Sorry for being so blunt about it, but really and truly, that's an ignorant statement, that you can only be your consciousness. That's who you are, really? You're conscious of going into a state where you're using an 11 dimension neuron pattern to figure things out? You're conscious of that, are you? You do that on purpose? You don't, huh? Oh, okay. Me either. Because it's not something I can do consciously. I can't digest food consciously either. There's a lot of things I can't do consciously. In fact, if I do it really well, I want to be unconsciously competent. About the worst thing I could be is consciously incompetent. Next up would be consciously competent. Third would be consciously competent, unconsciously competent, or unconsciously incompetent. And then the fourth level would be unconsciously competent. I'd like to get to that place where I don't have to think about it. I'm just competent. Wouldn't you? We are. We actually live there. But the thing is that what we do instead is that we tell ourselves that that if we don't think about it consciously, we don't think about it. Okay. Whatever you say. My job is to give you agreement in whatever reality you want to live in. Doesn't mean I need to live in it with you. It means I'm going to agree with you to go live in it. You want to be that goofy? Get a yellow hat and big green shoes. I'm good. Or green hat and big yellow shoes, whichever one it is. You're gonna be goofy, you'll be goofy. You know, dress the part. It's okay with me. I don't mind. I see you with a green hat on and say, I say, hey, it's Goofy. How you doing, dude? Everything's cool. I don't mind. I'm not trying to convince you to be something that you're not. I'm trying to convince you to be something that you are. I'm trying to convince you to at least try being what you are. You might like it. You don't know. It could happen. What else we got?
Schrodinger said that the chromosome, which contains the linear genetic code, to a physicist is a linear two-dimensional solid. Along its length, it has a great strength, and yet it is a flexible chain which can move and which can be split down the middle during mitosis. These carriers of the orders for our ultimate structure as an integral adult, their essential immortality in being passed from one individual to the next and creating the next individual in line, should not be neglected in any theory of the operation of the mind. It may be that our basic beliefs, the unique ones of each one of us, can be found by careful correlations between our essentially unique genetic maps and our thinking limits. It may be that the kinds and levels of thinking of which each of us is capable is essentially determined by the genes which are contained in each of us. It may be that each of our private languages is genetically determined. Even if this is true, that there is a genetic determinism in regard to our thinking machines, we are not yet at the point at which we are genetically controlled.
Well, I saw a study the other day. It's been more than a couple, I've seen this study a couple times of twins. They were separated at, I think, at birth or soon thereafter. And they got together late in life, like in their 40s, okay? And the similarities between them was weird, okay? I mean, really weird. For instance, they both smoked Winston cigarettes. They both were married to girls named Linda. There's a whole list of things. They both drove the same model Ford car, same color, I think, too. They did this, they had the same kind of education and so forth. But the thing is that they didn't know each other, and they did all these things because of genetics. They didn't decide about those things. They did, but they didn't really decide about it. It was something that they did because of the genetic structure within each one of them. Now, there are things like that that we all do. Okay, I look like my dad. My dad lost his hair right here, and just I did too. You know, it doesn't get any better. It doesn't get any worse. It's just that's it right there. That's all. That's what it's going to do. I have the same body shape as my dad. I walk like my dad. I apparently talk like my dad. I can't hear me talk, so I don't know that, but my cousins and so they say that, so I agree with them because they know better than me. They hear me talk. I don't. So anyway, the point I'm trying to make with you is this: is that look, the genetic code is going to affect you somewhat. That doesn't mean that you're stuck with it, though. That means that you can take advantage of what it does to you, and you can do it better. You can make it better. You can improve upon it. You can modify it. All of those things are also true. It's all available to you. There are methods and forms to do it. You guys can do it just as easily as anybody else can. It's a matter of doing it. Okay, what else we got, kid?
If we could free ourselves from the effects on our thinking machine of storage of materials from the external world, if we can free ourselves up from the effects of storage of metaprograms, which direct our thinking, programs devised by others and fed to us during our learning years, we may be able to outline and the essential variables which are genetically determined. This is an immensely difficult area for research. It will require the services of many talented individuals considering their own thinking process, combined with a detailed knowledge of their genetic structure and their genetic predecessors.
Well, yeah. It's really good to talk about these things, in other words. To keep it all inside yourself is probably a goofy thing to do. Maybe even Mickey Mouse. It's just not a smart thing to do. Because, well, a doctor who treats himself as a fool for a patient, they say. And I think this is particularly true about your own thinking. For instance, psychologists or psychiatrists, they always have a psychiatrist they go to see to unload their problems. That's what we have to deal with here, and people getting in and out of the tanks. We have to pay attention to how we're programmed by what they do, what they say, and how they act and react. We have to pay attention to it. Doesn't mean that they're right or wrong or they're good or bad. It just means that we have to pay attention to what's there. Deal with reality. So there are people that we need to talk to about these things so that we can figure out so we can hear even how they see it. because how we see it is going to be tainted by our experiences and by our prejudices and by our biases and by our language even and by our beliefs. And so the more people we talk to about these things, the more, let's say, general purpose we can be about the application of these same ideas. Okay? What else we got there?
This genetic determinism of thinking can be turned out to be a will-o'-the-wisp. It may be that in the subsequent development of the computer, it has become so general purpose that the original genetic factors in the genes are no longer of importance. Even as one can construct a very, very large computer of solid state parts, or of vacuum tube parts, or of biological parts, it makes little difference as long as the total size, the excellence of the connections, and the kinds of connections are such that one can obtain a general purpose net result from the particular machine. So may we possibly cancel out genetic differences. So may each one of us, as it were, attain the same kinds of learning and the same kinds of thinking machines, a little modified by genetic differences.
Oh my, huh? That we can actually construct a general purpose computer. Doesn't make any difference whether it's made of vacuum tubes or silicon or biological components. It's a matter of the size of the computer. And the computer between your ears is relatively large. It's humongous. It does tricks that no other computer can do. Mechanical computers of any variety can't come close to what your computer can do. And so what you're doing is you're saying that you're too stupid to pay attention to even your own memories, to see whether they're correct or not. Or that you're too challenged to think about, it's beyond your ability to think, to decide whether or not a religious concept is something that's real or not. You don't have permission. Mommy's got to tell you it's okay. Oh, daddy's got to tell you, oh, okay. The priest has got to tell, oh, whoever's got to tell you. I'm good. I'm not going to tell you. What for? This is something you got to decide for yourself, not because I say so. You got to figure out what's real for you and why it's real. Even if you're going to be an ass about it. It doesn't make any difference whether you're an ass about it or not. What's real for you is what's real for you. There's no need for you to be an ass about it. You can do it without all the drama if you wanted to. It doesn't make any difference. I mean, if you want to be dramatic, well, knock yourselves out, please. Go for that drama. Andale. Personally, I don't give a shit about your drama. I can take it or leave it. I'll put up with it to a point, and it's not very far into it, but I'll put up to it that point, and then I'll say, okay, well, you go ahead and be as dramatic as you want to. I'll see you. Bye. And I'll let you go ahead and have your dramatic fit all by yourself. You don't need me around to do that. Now, here's the thing I'm trying to get you to see, though. Look, it doesn't make any difference whether you claim this ability to think or not, except to you. You are the only person in the entire frickin' world that you can make a difference for if you use that general purpose kit that you've got and make a better computer mousetrap, as it were. Can you think better than you do? Absolutely. Absolutely. Are you thinking clearly? Probably not. It's not likely. Not unless it is that you've spent a good deal of time getting down to places where your thinking actually exists and it ain't in consciousness. Consciousness is actually the very last entity in your brain to know what you're thinking, because it's going to record what you've done and say, fuck, I didn't know you could do that. Whoa, check that out. Consciousness is not going to know until then, after the fact. And you're all thinking that you're going to think about something consciously after the fact so that you can do the thing before the fact. I say what? It doesn't compute, guys. It just doesn't. But go ahead and compute it that way. It's okay with me. I don't mind. I understand that it's too hard for you to do that. It's too seductive for you to change here. I got it. Don't worry about it. Either do something about it or not. But be happy with you with whatever choice you make. Me personally, I can't make the choice where I say consciousness is in charge. It's not. I can't do that. If you can do that, well, more power to you. I'm still going to tell you that it's a goofy thing. The consciousness cannot know what you're doing until after it's done. Can't know before. But I thought about it first. No, you didn't. Your other than conscious brain thought about way before consciousness did. Maybe days or even weeks before. Isn't that awful? I'm not my consciousness. You've taken my consciousness away. Oh, you bad man. Thank you. You're right. I am. I'm a terrible person. I'm taking your consciousness away. I'm telling you, your consciousness doesn't really think about things. It records things. You can prove that to yourself or not. I don't care. If you prove it to yourself, then you'll know what I'm talking about. If you don't prove it to yourself, then you won't know what I'm talking about. It doesn't make any difference to me. It only can make a difference to you. Okay? I don't care. I'm not I'm not trying to save you or convince you or any of those kinds of things. My job here is to give you the agreement for wherever the fuck you are. And that may not be a kind thing. You don't know that. Go ahead.
I do not wish to take sides on these issues. I merely wish to say that if one is to take an impartial and dispassionate view, one cannot afford to espouse deeply any fixed pattern of thinking with regard to these matters. I would prefer to see talented individuals with large mental capacities investigating their own minds to the very depths. I want to aid these individuals in their communication of the results to others with similar yet different talents. I believe that by using certain methods and means, some of which are presented in this work, that truly talented and dedicated individuals can forge, find, and devise new ways of looking at our minds, which are truly scientific, intellectually economical, and interactively creative. Consider, for example, the case of the fictitious individual created by the group of mathematicians masquerading under the name of Dr. Nicholas Bourbaki.
Yeah. Well, what Lily's talking about here is she's saying, look, there's going to be people come along that are going to take the things that he's talking about and apply them to their lives, and they're going to change how they're and modify how they think about things. Okay, that's cool. The illustration that he gives here is a you don't need to read this part. I'll just go over it. It is about this mathematician that didn't ever really exist. There was a group of mathematicians. I think they met in England about 3 times a year. And what they did is that they came up with a solution to a particularly difficult theorem I think in the world of quantum mechanics, if I'm not mistaken. That's where they did their work. But over the course of a year, they solved this. They came up with a solution. And what Lily says is he's not sure whether they would come up with it with or without working together, but they did work together and they did come up with it. And that's his point, is that working together as a group of minds was much more powerful than working together as single minds, which is always the case. If you can work together in terms of agreement, you're much more powerful, much more energetically speaking, than if you work by yourself. If you work, you don't have enough energy. You just don't. The best that you can do is work for somebody doing other things of that nature. You can't really ever get to a place where you can be what you want to be. Just can't get there. So I'm not telling you you're good or bad or anything else. I'm just hey, look, you want to know the facts? Here they are. I'm not being judgmental. I'm not telling you that you can or can't do it. You can if you want to, or you can ignore it. It's fine. Both things are the same as far as I'm concerned. If they're different for you, then you have to deal with it differently, not me. What else we got here, kid? You can skip over the mathematics part here. Whether or not this group was greater than or lesser than a single mind.
Whether or not this group was greater than or lesser than a single human mind operating in isolation or on similar materials will not be known for some time. It may be that the human-computer interlock achieved among these mathematicians created a new entity greater than any one of them in regard to the modes of thinking, complexity of thinking, and creative new ideas. Certain kinds of things that man does of necessity require tremendous amounts of cooperation among very large numbers of individuals. Such accomplishments are beyond any one individual and are a product only of the group effort. This is true, for example, in building the Empire State Building, a subway system, a railroad system, an airline, a large industrial factory, etc. In each of these cases, there is an rearrangement of external realities. A setting up of communication network between many individuals and a dedication of each of these individuals to the purposes of the organization of which they are part. This is probably the greatest accomplishment of our industrial, military, educational, and religious efforts in this century. Man's effective interlock with other men can accomplish certain kinds of things beyond any individual.
A few years ago, I knew this guy that was that had worked for Microsoft. Okay, and he worked with a group of other people, and their job was to get a particular software set done by a certain time. They got it done before time. They got bonuses. So they got done after time. They got what they got. He became a millionaire in about 4 months. But he said he didn't leave the office. Nobody did. Everybody just, they had a room where they could go play, and people go lay down and go to sleep and get up and come back, and they sleep at their desk. They brought in stuff to eat, and the pizzas all over the place, hamburgers, McDonald's, etc. But they all made good money because they all worked together to make the money. They pushed themselves to be done. Now, if you ever accomplish anything at all, ever, it's not going to be because you work 9 to 5. It's not going to be because you work a given time or you work for somebody. You're going to do it because you're doing it for yourself, and you don't give a damn about the time or the effort that it takes to put it in or to put it in place. If you're worried about those kinds of things, you're still a child. Sorry, but that's just how it is. You don't believe me? Try being a mom. You think you can be a mom part-time? No, you can't. Nope, you can't be a mom part-time. You gotta be a mom all of the fucking time. The good times, the bad times, the kids screaming and yelling, the kids laughing, the kids getting sick, the kids having no temperature, the kids getting chicken pox and measles and mumps and whatever else he gets. You're still going to be the mom. Even when that kid grows up and does a bad thing, you're still going to be that kid's mom. That's the truth of the relationship. You have to think about that. When you're doing something, if you're not doing it like you're a mom, you're not doing much. You're not using that general purpose kit that you've got as a computer. You're fucking the dog is what you're doing. Excuse my French. That's not a French phrase, but excuse it anyway. You can't do that stuff, guys. If you do that kind of stuff, you're going to be broke. You got to work at things all of the time. You can't ever break off from it. It's something that you do. If you do something, do it. Do it all. Do it with all your heart, with all your mind, or don't do it at all. It's like Rob Lowe sang in that song with you know, let's make it real or let's forget about it. Okay, if you can't make it real, then why are you doing it at all? Why start if you're not going to finish? Those are those are harsh realities, guys, but it's something that you have to deal with, right? I mean, I'm not mad at anybody because they don't finish it. I feel bad for them sometimes, but so it's up to them to do what they have to do, not me. They know what's best for them. They either do it or they don't. How hard can that be, right? Okay, what else we got here, kid?
However, in certain areas, gifted, talented, intelligent individuals seem to function almost autonomous, autonomous, autonomously as solitudinous computers, giving rise to new findings. This is seen in the case of the mathematical geniuses raised in isolation. One is almost afraid to educate such people for fear that they will lose general purpose nature and their ability to make original creative contributions. Somehow or other, they have escaped interlocked into man's ever more pervasive social organizations and their demands. As in the case of the creative physicist Moseley, who was drafted and killed in World War I, such talent can be thrown away by the operations of the necessity of interlock in our society.
Yeah. There are a number of young people, Angelina Jordan, for instance, who are musical geniuses. Angelina Jordan won Norway's Got Talent at 7 years old with Fly Me to the Moon. And she sang Summertime, and she sang just a whole bunch of Billie Holiday stuff, right? At 7, she's still doing it. She's still a musical genius with her voice, and she's what, 13 now? She's an old lady now, 13 years old. Don't know her, look her up. She's a joy to behold. There are all kinds of people like that. There's a bass player that's like 8 or 9 years old that plays bass with the best of them. There's a guitar player that plays with B.B. King and other people of that nature. Not with B.B. anymore, he's dead. But he's a kid. There's a Kingfisher or something like that, Catfish or something like that. There's a 16-year-old boy that plays Mississippi blues like he was an old timer. All of these kids, there are kids that just understand this stuff. They just understand it. They don't have to be, you don't have to explain it to them or anything else. They just use what they do. You don't want to explain anything to them. You don't want to explain music theory to them because it'll probably fuck them up. So you don't want to do that. You just play it. Play how you play it. Like Alma Dusha, or I think it's her name. At 12, she had written an opera and a piano concerto and violin concerto and played them all at 12. Oh, come on. At 12? What the hell is a concerto anyway? I'm 74. I don't have any idea what the fuck she did. But this girl can take 4 notes and make a classical piece out of it. Give her 4 notes. Took them out of a hat. She'll think about it for a few minutes and then make a classical piece to play out of those 4 notes. Amazing person. Okay, but she's a kid. There are a number of these kids that do these things like that opera singers and so forth, like that Laura Bachel, I think it's Laura something, Beltran, I think her name. 13, and she's singing soprano areas that a 13-year-old can't sing, and she's nailing it. I mean, absolutely nailing it. How does that happen? Because they have a general purpose kit that they take and they use in their way. We all can do the same thing if we want to, not the same thing. We can't do music maybe, but that doesn't mean we don't have our own special talents that we can use, that we do. We have our don, as we say in Spanish, right? That what is it that we're doing with that thing really? What is it? What is that gift doing for us, and what do we do with it? Everybody has one. It's a matter of using it if you want to. But in order to use it, you have to know a couple of things. You have to understand some things here, right? It's not just wiggle your nose and it's done. One of the things you have to understand is your own programming. The other thing you have to understand is how does the spirit or the soul or the other, what do you want to call it, how does it express through you? It doesn't talk to you. Move that out of the way. It never was Cleopatra. It wasn't Napoleon. It wasn't any of those things. It's you. That's it. Deal with that. If you want to deal with those other things, great, but don't tell me about it, because I'm gonna laugh at you. Okay, I think you're funny if you tell me that you were once upon a time Cleopatra. You don't have any idea how many Cleopatras I've met. She's a very popular spirit that comes out to a lot of people. Powerful apparently, because everybody's been Cleopatra once in their lives. I passed on that one. I wasn't able to reach Cleopatra status. Unfortunate, but that's how it is. So anyway, I couldn't even be Mark Anthony. Hell, I couldn't be Richard Burton. None of them. I just couldn't do it. Sorry. Okay, so the point I'm trying to get you to see is this: is that look, even though you have the necessity to interlock in the society with certain things, doesn't mean you can't express your skills. You can do that. That's why you're here, to express it. Please do that. Please express what you do. That'd be great. Express it well, express it poorly. Just the same, just express it. You'll get better if you do that. What else we got, Elise?
There is a point of view in the modern world, and there are divisions among intellectuals which are wasting our use of talents and geniuses. There are antithetical philosophies which cause diverse intellectual activities. It may be that such conflict is necessary for the intellectual advancement of each individual. It may also be completely superfluous and nonsensical. C.P. Snow has pointed out in his writings, especially those about the two cultures, that one kind of social dichotomy about which I speak, the value systems of each intellectual reflect his prejudices, his biases, his blindnesses, as well as his areas of competence. It seems to be very foolish maneuver to take that which one knows, that one is excellent, and raise it above the general intellectual level of all other intellectuals. One technique of raising what one and what one's most intimate colleagues would know around one's field of activity. To dig this moat, one demeans and denigrates areas of knowledge and individuals in those fields surrounding one's own field. This kind of activity seems to be almost built in our structure as biological organisms.
Yeah, unfortunately, one of the things that we try to do is that we all of us do this. We all try to do it ourselves. I think we start that as children, actually. We do this whole thing where we say, I can put my shoes on, I can put my shirt on, I can get dressed, I can do this, I can walk over there, I can drink this thing, I'm a big boy, I'm a big girl. That's where it comes from. And we take that on into kindergarten and on into grade school and so forth, that we're capable, that we can do, and we're going to. It's a good thing that we do it. It's a good idea. But the thing is that we have to kind of come to a place where we can agree to find agreement, not agree to disagree. Agree to disagree is a fool's errand. What the hell are you talking about? I'm going to agree to disagree. That's not an agreement. That's stupidity. I agree to disagree. Well, aren't you a special little fuck? Yay, you can agree to disagree. Well, gloriously. How about agreeing to agree? How about finding a place to agree with somebody rather than to disagree all the damn time? I mean, what's the harm in you agreeing? I mean, really? Will you lose a right arm, a left nut, a right tit? What'll happen? I mean, really and truly, what will happen if that happens to you? If you have to agree with somebody, if you have to find a place to agree, that's awful. But we don't. We say, no, I can do it myself. I don't need anyone to help me. You're kind of missing the point of this whole agreement idea, aren't you? See, if you're in agreement with other people, that means that you have their energy into what you're doing as well. Like with, especially if you're going to build a skyscraper. You think one guy can go do that? I don't see how that works. I mean, they're not even skyscrapers over here, but I see a whole ton of guys working on these buildings that are out. I see them going up, down. There's a bunch of guys up there all the time. 10, 12, 14 guys. Boom, 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 boom. There's not one guy doing it. It just isn't. It's a community effort. It's a societal effort. Okay, we're going to be different than that though, right? We don't need to know how we think. Okay. Congratulations. You can do whatever you want, but for me personally, I need to know how I think. I need to know what thought actually is. Otherwise, how do I know I'm thinking? How would I know that I've thought about something? Why? Because I was conscious of it? Well, that doesn't make any sense. That makes no sense at all. So what we do is we dig a moat around ourselves. You know, we put this moat all the way around us. We say, you can't come in. This is private. It's mine. I can't share this part with you because it's mine. Mine, 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 mine. What a silly person you are, too. No, it isn't. You're wearing it on your sleeve. Everybody in the world can see what you're doing here. Everybody can see what you're emoting here. You can't make it private. Go ahead, try to make it private. Insist that it's private. Jump up and down and yell and scream, "This is private!" I guess that wouldn't be announcing that your private thing is in front of God and everybody, right? Well, maybe a little bit, huh? Okay. So the point that I'm trying to make here with all this is this, guys. Look, we have a general purpose building kit, okay? Construction kit. We have this general purpose ability to go from one level of human endeavor into another level of human endeavor in a matter of minutes, if not faster. We can be that general purpose if we wish to be. We can also knock ourselves out with being private. We can prevent ourselves from ever learning a damn thing because we're going to protect our own little ideas. This is who I am. Congratulations. What a dumb fuck you are. If that's all you are, is just that. How unfortunate. Sigh. What a sad state of affairs. It's okay with me. I don't mind, but it's still a sad state of affairs. Don't mind if I'll just say a little prayer for you, shed a tear, and then I'll be on my way. Okay? I'm good. I don't need you to fix anything. If you don't need to fix it, I damn sure don't need you to fix it. Because if you try to fix it and you don't want to fix it, then you're gonna blame me for fixing it. And I don't need that, thanks. You fix it on your own or you don't fix it at all. I can help you to see what to fix, maybe. I can show you the structure. I can show you where the structure might be broken, but how to fix it? No, I don't have any idea. Nobody does. Nobody does. Really, nobody except you. And that's my point here in all this. It isn't genetics. It isn't smart. It isn't that we can't modify it. We can modify even our physical bodies. And I don't mean that we can get implants or that kind of thing. I mean, we can actually modify our physical body. It takes a couple generations, but we can do it. We do it. There's kids in the sea peoples in the South Pacific that they can stay underwater for 7-8 minutes. Whoa, I can't stay underwater for a minute. But here's this kid that's diving for 7-8 minutes, coming back with all kinds of stuff because he can hold his breath that long. And at 60 feet, you're kidding me. This kid's doing it. We can modify even our bodies. We can learn how to do that. So if we can modify even our bodies, I don't really want to hear about that you can't modify your thoughts. Okay? Doesn't make good sense to me. I think you can modify them if you want to. If you don't want to, then well, that's a different story. You don't want to. You're not going to then. Nobody does anything they don't want to do, including you. So if you don't want to do the thing, then you're not going to do it. Don't worry about it. If you do want to do it, then you will. It's that simple. Okay. All right. Any questions or comments or fuck you, John, or anything like that for tonight? Wow. I really feel privileged. Nobody told me to go fuck myself tonight. Wow. That's oh, wait a minute. There's people still on the Zoom call. Maybe I spoke too soon. All right, guys, listen, that's it for tonight. We'll see you all next week, same time, same station, okay? Okay, guys, well, I guess not, huh?
Good night.
Good night. Behave yourselves, and if you don't behave yourselves, then well, send me pictures. Bye, Pammy.
Bye.